Louisiana, you say New Orleans, but her mother is from Minden. My father's family is from Hot Springs, Little Rock. And we are the Trois, the Washington. And that means we are part of the 5 civilized tongues. Everybody talks about the Constitution. The Constitution is anchored in a treaty. And the treaty is with the 5 civilized tongues. If you do not understand that, then you might need an attorney. Now, I went to law school and I decided not to practice law. I'm in mortgage banking. And I've kind of ended the career because of the debacle in the toxicity of the mortgage industry. However, what we have here tonight is a young man who is of the same ethnicity that I'm a member of by bloodline, which is just and sanguine, which is to your mother. So we are all attached to a biblical cord, which gives us our nativity. And the nativity is your bloodline. You are who you are. And in order for you to say that you claim to be a part of the North American continent, you have to be a part of the 5 civilized tongues. Quick synopsis. Moving right along. And I don't want you to take anything that I say literally, but go check it out for yourself. Now, most people won't tell you that it's like it's a big secret. It's not a big secret anymore. The big secret is you're the secret. So what we want to do tonight in the second phase of this particular little gathering, it's a small gathering. I guess we are all family, La Familia. Excuse me. See. And what we're doing is we're trying to correct the historicity that has been a problem for our people for the last 400 years, especially in the last 150 years. So we have an ongoing program to do that. We started out with 4 major areas, and we're still working it out. It has been a long process since we changed our name from the Concerned Citizen Council of Texas, which has been about almost 9 years now, 10 years. Now we're the Concerned National-Citizen Council, USA, Republic. We did not form a democracy, we formed a republic. And that is part of the problem. Right now our people are facing a lot of devastation because of our own inability to understand what's going on. Number one, we have a problem in food, medicine, air quality, water quality, you name it. We're being, done in by the things that we actually pay for. I'm so appreciative of another brother, Brother Steve Creer. He's going to have an opportunity to come with you and explain what he does in indigenous products a little bit later, but he's been around for a long time. I was searching for you, brother. And I had the original brochure from, about 15, 20 years ago? And then I knew he wanted it and I wouldn't give it to him because I had taped it up. But nevertheless, we had planned to do a lot more than we can do tonight. But this is just a tidbit of what we're attempting to do in the upcoming year. We've got a lot more programs scheduled, and we'll get into that before the evening is over. Maybe I'll get a chance to say something else a little bit later. We're going to move through the agenda quite rapidly because of the time factor. We didn't get a chance to get everything set up like we wanted to because a lot of forces came against us, and one was Brother Tim McCoy, who is he's a bad man. And I'd like to thank him for coming out, Sergeant McCoy. And if people don't know about his background, I'm going to let him go into that, but he doesn't really brag on himself, so he let people like him do that. He's actually a fire jumper. He's the first man down behind enemy lines, and he's normally by himself. His job is to snipe or to take out snipers or to clear the way for the snipers, and that's some hound dog in there. But I want to thank him for coming out. I know he had a itinerary schedule that changed. We would have had the military uniforms outside. He was scheduled to be on a flight this afternoon going to New York. And we talked 4 or 5 times today, and I had to say, hey man, when is the funeral? He said Monday. I said, can we take a later flight? Because I need you in the community in the hood. And he's representative of us, and I really appreciated him changing his flight itinerary, even if we don't have all the uniforms that we had planned to show from the Civil War, to show our participation in the service to this country. Noble Drew Ali said, we are part and parcel of this country. And you know, I really represent my people because I've always said, Mary, I'm Washington. So I've said that for many, many years. And our brother, Dr. Umar Shabazz AAM is going to come in and really give you a critique because he's done a lot of work from the original beginning with the Empress. Actually, Brother Umar spoke at the United Nations. And this was some years ago, almost 20 years. But I'm going to let Brother Umar do his thing and explain to you who we are as far as our nationality and as our people are part of this 5 civilized tongues. We have a treaty. We'll be putting some of these documents in your hand physically, hopefully, if we have everybody's numbers. And I think I know most of the people in the audience. So, and Mary, we already got most of them, you know. So Sheikh, you know, you're aware of that. Brother Sheikh Tahuti is our horse whisperer. And he's going to talk about, you know, what he does at his ranch. But I'm going to go ahead and get ready to set this thing up. Let's get this party started. And a young man who we've been working with for the last year or so, Brother Darrell, is going to come up and he's going to present the Unified Hands Project. The Unified Hands Project is a program where we're going green and we're doing our in-home gardening. And that's a great program because we need to begin to eat better, eat right, and just change our relationship with what's going on in society because a lot of things are not for us. So if time prevails, we're going to go ahead and get started. Our cameraman is here. So Brother Darrell, if you're getting ready to get set, we can let you go right on into what you're doing. And I'm going to come off the stage and close my motor mouth.
Hello, everybody. How's everyone this evening? Thank you for the introduction. So I'm going to share with you Unified Hands and our Urban Growers project. Let's start off just telling you a little bit about myself. I'm the founder and president of Unified Hands. And basically I'm a business development consultant. I have been consulting with many different companies, many different industries, in the public sector, the private sector, Fortune 500 companies, many companies you might know from the communication sector, Nokia, Samsung, Motorola, to computers with Dell, and also in the public sector, City of Arlington, FEMA, so Parkland Hospital, which is in the healthcare, and also county, state level. So I've been doing a lot, and there's companies that I haven't mentioned, but so I've been able to have a lot of experience working within these different industries, and it has increased my abilities to be able to solve problems. So at this stage in my life, I'm looking to be able to solve problems dealing with our people. And so this is where Unified Hands comes into play. And Unified Hands it's about, food is our platform, but we're so much more. Talking about growing healthy, natural, organic, and fresh food. We started about 2 years ago. And 2 years ago, we basically kind of started with, unofficially, just working within the community. A whole bunch of folks were just kind of weren't happy with the food deserts and what was going on, and looking for solutions to do that. So our goal was to come up with with plans to be able to solve those problems. So Unified Hands is about, and our mission is about solving problems. Excuse my transition here. It's about solving problems in urban areas and urban clustered areas, especially food deserts. The food deserts in these urban areas are more than just food deserts. It's a health desert, it's a job desert, and it's an infrastructure desert as well. So what we're looking at is building a network of urban growers that will provide a stable and sustainable environment whereby people have access to locally grown food. Urban growers can now feed themselves, their families, and the community. So we plan to transform food deserts into food oases within the urban areas with healthier food choices from local urban growers. So I'm going to stop here for a second, and I'm going to actually show you some examples of what we've done so far. But we have a program right now where we work with different growers to help them with educating them on growing and being able to share our resources. Sometimes we don't have enough time, or we don't have enough resources, so if we work together, then we all can be able to grow successfully. So that's our philosophy, that's our concept that we've been working with, and we've also been working to provide workshops to help growers in being able to grow. We continue to build that together, then we can eventually build an infrastructure that allows us to be able to sell locally grown food throughout these urban areas. Right now, we don't have an infrastructure, so we don't have a lot of people growing together. So we facilitate that and we encourage that. Then, as time goes on, we'll be able to not only grow together, but we'll be able to transform that into an economy, local economy. So Unified Hands has, starting this year, we started to roll out our grower to volunteer program, our workshop program. And in so doing, we've been doing grower site visits. So I'm going to share with you some of the results that's going on so far in 2017 as we begin to close out 2017 and go into 2018. So this right here, this is actually part of what I call our economic, our group, practicing group economics. So this right here is a little bit more than what I would call the site visit. This right here is just an exchange. This sister, I affectionately call her the Egg Lady, but the name of her business is Be and It Is Homestead, and she actually is an urban farm. You know, we have what we call urban gardens and urban farms, and she's actually an urban farmer. She's located in South Dallas, and she has chickens. She grows, and what she does is sells eggs. So I've been a faithful, pretty much when she first started. She started probably around towards the end of the summer of 2015. And I started purchasing eggs from her. She has been a collaborator and a member of Unified Hands. Started in November of 2015. And so I've been faithfully stopped getting eggs from the store and been getting it directly from her. So one of our site visits that we did, so when we hear a new gardener wants to join our group and learn how to grow and get that support, we come out and we do a site visit to see how we can best help and offer some sort of advice and support, whatever is needed. So this is one of the new members, and then over here is a master gardener, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about her because she's actually here. She's going to kind of share some of her experience as well. This is another site visit. You may have actually heard or seen about this because he became kind of a little famous with Facebook. The gentleman who's kind of bent over a little bit with, he's got the mower there. He was on Facebook. Basically, the founder of Facebook came into Dallas back in February, I believe it was, and they cleared the lands and everything. It was a big old press op, going on. But it was actually his grandfather's land that he inherited that the founder of Facebook came to, and so he's had a lot of support around that. This is in the early going. I think I came there about a couple days before the magnet school was going to come and help put a fence, and more people were going to come and lay beds and everything. So I haven't been there since. But this is just an example of things moving. There's things moving going on locally in our areas. And Unified Hands is looking to be a part of that, building a network. This is another backyard farm. Shauna, she's in Fort Worth. She actually has some goats in the cage there, and then off to the on the other side of the homestead, she actually has a garden. So we have members right now. It's not a whole lot of us, but really all over the Metroplex, from Waxahachie to Fort Worth, Hutchins, and South Dallas, North Dallas. So all over, people are pretty much interested in what's going on. So Unified Hands, this is one of our early organizing. When we first got going and got started. One of our fundraisers is December 2015. And the group there, we made organic vegan food and prepared that. So we shared there. Some of it was from the actual garden as well. What I'll also show you here is that Unified Hands, this is part of what we're talking about as far as being able to provide the support. So we're actually volunteering. This is early in the growing season. It is the first of a quarterly events that we're going to have. Our whole goal is to follow the grower throughout the growing season. So we'll actually lead the grower throughout the growing season. So helping you be prepared for the next phase of each phase within the growing season. So this is the first thing. It's time to, you don't want to start growing when the season, or you want to start thinking about preparing when it starts. You want to do that now. You want to start thinking about that now, start preparing that now. So that's why we're having this workshop. It's an introductory workshop to kind of get you prepared about that. So it's going to be tomorrow from 1 to 3 at the Muhammad Mosque, 48, right down the street here, 2429 Martin Luther King Drive. So we welcome you all to come to that event as well. And
anyone is interested, we'll make sure that we got your information, and everybody, we know everybody, so hey, that's what's up. The next person coming to the stage, I'm gonna call on him. I know he's sitting out there, he's real cool. My big brother, that's Sheikh Tahuti from Fahami Nation. This is the real horse whisperer. And I want y'all to give him a great round of applause.
Hello, everyone. First, I want to say happy holidays. As we all know, this has been a special time all our lives since we were little big kids. We was raised under this national holiday to have a time of joy and a time of unity for our families. And so this time it's come around again, and the reason I'm bringing that out is because I figure this is a time of joy. I'm having a joyous time because I know some of you personally, and I'm glad to see you. And I wanted you to know that. What I do, I train horses. I take horses that's never had a man touch them, never been rode, never had any connection with a human being, and I train them and tame them where people can ride them and enjoy them. Of course, we know one thing. Thank God for the last 50 years or 70 years that automobiles has been our transportation. Boy, we would be going slow pace with horses, and I know that. Plus, we would have to be outside and deal with the elements. So it has become a thing where it's a pleasure thing. It's a thing where you get therapy. It's a thing where the kids can see where we came from, and it's something that you can enjoy. So what I was glad to have Michael do is have me come down and speak about this, because we do have a ranch out in Dallas that you're all welcome to come to. Bring your children, bring events, bring your parties, bring anything that you want to create as an adventure and come out. We also have another ranch that that Michael has access to, and he's talking about growing. We have 101 acres that we're not using it all for horses. So Michael will have access to that so that we can have food abundantly. And that's something that we really need, because that is the life. Without good food, there will be no good life. Because every disease that you have and get came from bad food. All of it. Not just DNA got a lot to do with it. Sometimes you can get the right foods in your body, and what you've had passed on to you from your parents can be cured by putting the right food in your body. I'm just glad to come and visit you. It's like me coming to a big Christmas party, a time of joy. It's Friday evening, and I see a bunch of pleasant, high, good-spirited people. And so I'm going to leave my card so that if you do decide to want to come and take riding lessons or throw an event, I have someone that has horses that need help, please call me. And I'm into For Humming Nation of Nations. He brought that out. What For Humming Nation of Nations is, it's a religion for black people. And it goes all the way back to the beginning of time. Now, what is the beginning of time? The beginning of time, as far as we know about today, started in Africa. Of course, they tell us about the lost city of Atlantis, but it started in Africa. So what they call it is mythology. That is because they're saying it's a fact written about a people that's lost. So there's only one people in the world that's lost. Everybody else got a nation, got a commercial enterprise, got positive communities, and they all duplicated off of that mythology, except the one who the mythology belonged to. It's you. You are the lost people. And you don't know how to come together with it because they made sure you couldn't find it. You know why you couldn't find it? It's you. And you know what your tool is? If you are made in the image of God, then what do you think your mind is for? That's it. Your mind. And nobody is thinking about it. They're following fads. The fads is there is American holidays that go on to us. So we should be making money out of them. So when he said for Harmony, he gave me a chance to throw a little religion into this. And we all need it. So when he threw it in there, I figured out, so well, I'll set the platter. We are the mythology of the facts of the foundation that built the world, and I'm going to prove it. One more thing I'm going to say before I leave. Time has always been with us. Time will always be with us. For we are a part of time, and that is a mighty, mighty God. So the thing is, what people in this world have built buildings and built monuments that time has not destroyed? Y'all, Rome didn't fail, Greece didn't fail, Israel didn't fail, all these things didn't fail. But get on a plane and go to Africa tomorrow and pull it down them pyramids and them statues and your monuments. Time did not take it. So that's the honest religion that time has not destroyed, was our own ancestors. and we never turn around and look back and see where we came from. So busy going forward, but it's a false roadmap going that way. Because they want to keep you going that way. Because they know if you ever turn around and go back home, you're going to see, oh, y'all copycatted. It was a religion. Y'all named it religion. So y'all recopied it. Who are you? You are gods and goddesses, not pagan. Because if you didn't have that mind and you didn't have that breath, you surely wouldn't be living in you. God bless you.
Tim McCoy. And Brother Tim McCoy, I'm going to let him speak for himself. He's a master sergeant. He's a fire jumper. He's head of the Triple Nickel. And you're talking about the only other person I knew that was at his comparable level was Reverend Scott. He's not here tonight. But this is Reverend Brother Tim McCoy, United States Army. Take over, sir. Sergeant.
How y'all doing? Initially, I was not going to be here tonight, but I'm going to tell you who I am. My name is Timothy McCoy. On the internet, I'm known as T-Mac. I retired after 26 years in the Army. 24 of those years was as a paratrooper. When I retired, I started my own little mobile museum, and I specialized in airborne history, and I specialized in special op history. And then I have another section that I specialize in African American history. With that, doing my research, I became the first national historian for 2nd Ranger Company. 2nd Ranger Company was an all-black ranger unit during the Korean War. They made the first ever airborne ranger combat jump. I couldn't believe it. I was like, I never heard of this. I spent 26 years in the Army, I never heard of this. Then I met Walter Morris. He's the first black paratrooper. And he invited me to their reunion, and with working with them, first appointed and then elected as the national historian for the Triple Nickels. Triple Nickels were the first black paratroopers in World War II. They didn't go off to fight in the European or Asian theater because nobody wanted us. And they became smoke jumpers. That's what that helmet is. They were taught, retrained to jump into trees because the Japanese were sending balloon bombs over and igniting the forest. A family got killed, and they mobilized the Triple Nickels up to Oregon, and they were retrained to jump in and put out. That was the Army's first smoke jumpers. There was smoke jumpers before that, but they were for the U.S. Forest Service. I'm also the national historian, to show you how versatile I am. I'm also the national historian for the 505th Parachute Infantry Regiment out of the 82nd Airborne Division. They're famous. They made 4 combat jumps in World War II, and people see St. Mary Gleason when they see D-Day. That was the 505th. I said originally I wasn't going to come here tonight because a couple of days ago, the last living member of the test platoon for the Triple Nickels passed in Huntington, New York, Huntington Station, New York, and his family requested I come there. And I sent a message to Brother Robinson. I said, brother, I'm not going to be able to make it. I got to hurry up and get to New York, and I'm leaving, Friday night. And I left that message on his phone, and in the interim, I got a phone call from a reporter who wanted to know more about Clarence Beavers. Clarence Beavers is the gentleman who passed. And he was a white gentleman, and as he was talking to me, he got frank. He said, why is that important? So when Brother Robinson called me, I said, you know what? I'm going to change my flight, and I'm going to come here, and I'm going to go a little off script, and I'm going to say why it's important to this audience. Since the the first casualty in the Revolutionary War was Crispus Attucks. That was the first casualty. We earned the right to fight for this country. We earned it. And when our history is told, sometimes it's changed. Peter Salem. He was a hero at the Battle of Bunker Hill. Killed one of the British generals, turned the tide of the battle. Well, his actually name wasn't Peter Salem. His name was Peter Salam. I wasn't from his master. That was the name he chose for himself. Even the war, now, what most people don't realize is that after the country was formed, and we were no longer the Continental Army, we went to the United States Army, the United States Navy, and the United States Marine Corps. They wiped out black history. They wiped out, and the Militia Act of 1792 forbid blacks to serve in the military. If you look at the War of 1812, most of the blacks you hear about was the Navy, because they were allotted 5%, and the Army unit that you hear about was a freedmen battalion out of Louisiana that General Jackson at the time came down and requested their help, along with the help of some of the slaves. But our history was wiped out. When it comes to the war with Mexico, you don't hear about us. But the reason there was a war with Mexico, well, first let me tell you one of the reasons that started the War of 1812. The British would go out into the harbors and commandeer ships saying, we're looking for deserters. They commandeered one ship, and the only people they took off was 4 black men, African Americans, because they were Americans at that time, and 1 white guy. So they knew that the British was up to something. So then that's when they started protesting. Then we'll get to the Spanish-American War. Spanish-American War started right here in Texas, Alamo. Well, do you really know what happened? Well, actually, they allowed the people to settle in Tejas. Hey, you can come, but you can't have slaves. And the reason you couldn't have slaves was because Mexico has a history, well, in its history, has had blacks as governors. The second president of Mexico was black. And they said, you can come, but they won't have no slavery. Well, when they came up to the Alamo, it was like, we told you you couldn't have slaves. Well, they said, these ain't slaves. They said, well, then let them go where they want to go. Well, no, we can't have that. So Santa Anna himself came up here, and that's how the war with Mexico started. Now we come to the Civil War. At the Civil War point, they didn't want to use us because we were mostly slaves. They was using us as laborers, but they were running out of their own people. And when they was running out their own people, Lincoln did the Militia Act of 1862, which allowed blacks to join the military, but only as laborers. But what the Union generals was doing, they were forming their own all-black units out of contrabands. Then they did the Congress in 1863 came up with the U.S. colored troops. So they did their own regiments. Initially, when I was going to come here, there was going to be a slideshow. It would have showed you how many regiments there were. But I'm condensing this down. After the Civil War ended, they kept what has now become the original Buffalo Soldiers. Well, initially it was the 38th, 39th, 41st Infantry Regiments and the 9th and 10th Cavalry. They condensed it down and became the 24th, 25th, 9th, and 10th Cavalry Regiments. Now, in the Indian War, they proved themselves gallantly. Several of them earned the nation's highest Medal for Valor, which is the Medal of Honor, to back up, to show the proudness of how blacks were in one battle, the Battle of New Market's Height, in September 1864. 16 blacks earned the Medal of Honor. So we had established that we were brave. Then came the Spanish-American War. Now, they didn't want to send blacks overseas. So the original Buffalo Soldiers were used initially. They were used, you ever heard the Battle of San Juan, the charge of San Juan Hill? Teddy Roosevelt, and he gets all this praise. Well, Teddy Roosevelt was beaten back 3 times. 9th, 10th Cavalry, 24th, 25th Infantry Division rushed up and cleared the way, and so when he went up there, he didn't have much opposition anymore. But they don't tell you that part. Then they decided that they wanted to pull some of these blacks out. The 24th Infantry Division, or Infantry Regiment, wanted to bring over some replacements, and they came into the Cuban Harbor. First day there, 5 African Americans earned the Congressional Medal of Honor. 5, first day in the battle. So what they decided to do was kind of move them out of the way. So, but they needed somebody because there was a sickness, the yellow fever was going on. So what they created was volunteer units, and they were called immune battalions. They said, well, just send, and they sent a bunch of black nurses down. They said they can't get sick. Well, but that was proven wrong. We could get sick just like they could get sick. Now, I don't know if any of you know, the next war is the World War I. There was the 92nd, 93rd Infantry Divisions. How many of you understand that in World War I, no black troops fought under the American flag? They fought for the French. Black Jet Pershing traded 2 black divisions to the French for armament. Harlem Hellfighters in World War I. When the French received the troops, the Americans sent notice that don't treat them too well because after the war they're going to want, be treated right. You could use them as laborers and servants. But the French was hard pressed. I don't know if you noticed, but a lot of members of those units refused to come back to America after World War I was over. Same thing happened in World War II. Now in World War II, in the beginning of the war, now we're going to get into triple nickel history, how they were formed. In the beginning of the war, we wasn't there. We were there, but we wasn't really in fighting units. Franklin Roosevelt decided to have, it was called the Malloy Commission, but it was a commission to determine whether blacks really could handle going into combat. That's how the Tuskegee Airmen were formed. It was an experiment. They sent them down to some guys down there, and they wasn't going to really give them a chance. You know the story. Eleanor Roosevelt came down and said, hey, take me up in a plane. They flew around the base, and now send them to war. They did the same thing with tanks, the 761st, 758. They created some tanks and said blacks couldn't drive tanks. Why couldn't we drive tanks? It makes no sense. But they proved them wrong. But they created them as a tank group, but they left the battalion, headquarters, not the battalion, the group headquarters in the United States, and sent the tanks over independently, and Patton requested them personally. He says, I want these guys. And when he got them, he says, look, you're doing this for your race. You know, Patton really didn't have no love for blacks, but he said, you're doing this for your race. Prove yourself. And they did. As a matter of fact, we got a Medal of Honor winner out of the 761st. The same thing happened with airborne soldiers. It was a new concept, started in the 1940s, where the Germans actually had it, well, the Russians had it in the 30s, and the Germans developed it and was using it superbly throughout Europe. So Americans said, come on, we're gonna form our own, but they excluded blacks. So Walter Morris, who was considered the first paratrooper, washed out of the OCS. I'm trying to talk so that, you know, and use language that instead of acronyms, because that's we're accustomed to using acronyms. OCS is Officer Candidate School. He has a week out and he washes out. They sent him to the airborne school to guard the equipment. And he was like, you know, they're no better than us. He was telling the guys that they're no better than us. So they started mimicking what they did. General Gaither got word that they were going to start an experimental unit. And so he went to Walter Morris and says, look, you got these guys. We want you to come into this unit. Meanwhile, before that even happened, Clarence Beaver, the guy who died in upstate New York, he was on orders. He volunteered in early 1943 to go to airborne school. Now, he's fair-skinned, light-skinned, and when he got there, they realized he was black. Even threw him in jail. you know, and then they assigned him to the unit with Walter Morris. Now, they got together and formally was organized in December 30th, 1943, and started their training in January 1944. When time came to, they were initially supposed to be a battalion, but a general crossed out battalion and wrote company. You know, so just let them be a company. But you don't send a company element into combat. So that means they were never meant to go into combat until Brigadier General Benjamin O. Davis, who worked for the IG, came down and he goes, what is the smallest element that you send into combat? And they said, a battalion. He said, well, why you got a company? So after they raised them, they became a battalion. But back to the jumping, when they were in jump school, they were housed separately. They took 20 men who were volunteers and put them into a building that was designed for 10. And they said they think they heard us. This is what Clarence Beaver told me. He said they think they heard us, but it was so cold that that body heat kept us warm. You know, that's taking lemons and turning it into lemonade. That's what we do.
Right.
When they went to the mess hall, they couldn't go through their doors everybody else did. They had to go to a side door, and there was a designated table for them to eat. When it came time for them to make the first jump, one guy had to leave. Out of 20, only 17 made it to go to the jump phase. One guy went on emergency leave, so 16 guys got together, boarded up on the plane, and the cadre started making bets. Excuse my French, ain't no niggas gonna jump out of planes. One guy lost his house. Another guy lost a year's wages. And when they got over the drop zone, the 16 paratroopers jumped out. A week later, worse than that, a week later, the guy who went on emergency leave, he came back, he says, I'm ready to jump. Well, he didn't have nobody to jump with him. Nobody would talk to him. And in those days, they packed their own parachute. He had to do it all himself. Costello Stewart. They called him the 17th jumper. He made it. Then they brought in 6 officers. The 6 officers made it. That was the nucleus of the 555 Parachute Infantry Company. And then I told you later on, they became a battalion. Now, once they left Fort Benning, they went to Camp McCall in North Carolina. And they was ready. General Gavin heard about these guys being formed and made them do extra training. Even the commander at Airborne School made them do extra training. You know, we were specialized in weapons. But nobody wanted them. They trained, nobody wanted them. They thought they were going to go in for D-Day, the big jump in Europe. Nobody wanted them. Then they got called up. They thought they were going to go to the Asian Pacific Theater, but the Army had something else. A Japanese balloon bomb had landed and had killed a family. So they mobilized the Triple Nickels up to Camp Pendleton, Oregon. And while they were there, they were retrained to not jump on flat ground, but jump into tall trees, climb down, and put out whatever fire was on the ground. I don't know if you ever seen a forest fire. And I was a paratrooper for 24 of my 26 years. I can promise you I'm not going to jump into a tree, and I'm not going to climb down, and I'm not going to put out no fire. Now, to explain to you what a paratrooper is, I was on a flight in December of 1989. 82nd was mobilized to go into Panama. And you didn't know you were going until you were right over the area, and they opened the door, and that's when everybody got nervous. And the commander stood up, and he said, men, grab a hold of yourselves. Your job doesn't start until you're surrounded. And that's true. That's what a paratrooper does. He jumps into the middle of the mayhem. You know. So, they finished, they were in Oregon from May to August of 1945. One jumper was killed, Melvin Brown. He was a medic. He had just gotten there. Another medic was sick. He said, I'll take his place. And he fell 200 feet to his death. As a matter of fact, to show you how well the Army takes care of its men, and in those days, no one knew where he was buried until 2014. 2014. His grave was lost to history. Some smoke jumpers decided to go look. I mean, I talked to Walter Morris, who escorted his body home, and I said, well, why don't nobody know where he's buried? Well, you know, that doesn't make sense. He said there was some ruckus, and we were told we had to leave. Some white smoke jumpers found his grave. 2015, I had the distinction. The U.S. Forest Service invited me out to give him a proper military burial. So what else is important about the triple nickel is that once the war ended, General Gavin, who was the commander of the 82nd, he loved these guys. Now, there was a parade, a victory parade, given in 1946 in New York City, and Gavin wanted the triple nickels to march. And I can show you pictures of them marching, but you'll never see a film of it because the cameras were turned off as they marched by. You know, you can't write us out of history when we're good, though.
That's right, that's right.
Okay, I'm about to wrap this up. The last thing that's important about the triple nickels is the fact that they were integrated into the Army, into an all-white division, 6 months prior to President Truman signing the order integrating the Army. And that cost Gavin a star. He only retires 3 stars. Lastly, and then I'll walk off, is those guys formed 2nd Ranger Company. 2nd Ranger Company was an all-black unit in the Korean War. They made a parachute jump into combat. That rectified, and the guys that were made up this unit came from the triple nickels. And right now they're fighting to get the XO, the Congressional Medal of Honor. Okay, I'm going to wrap that up. Thank you for listening to me.
Once again, let's give a great round of applause. Our brother, Sergeant, applause from
Hello, how you guys doing today?
How are you?
First, I just want to talk about a little bit of where I'm from. I'm from right here in Dallas, Texas. I had 6 older brothers. I'm number 7. My mother always told me that I need to take care of number 7. Fortunately, my father comes from Arkansas and he bought some property in Dallas. It's a pretty nice piece of property. It's not that large, but in a prominent area at this time. So he started out with Hollins & Son Plumbing. And we used to ask our father all the time, when was going to buy some machines? He said, y'all are the machines. So he started teaching a little history about everything, about who we are, where we come from. The problem is most of us don't know. Someone touched on that today. And it's very important that we begin to understand who we are and what we have done in ancient times and today. That we'll turn and stay the same. But for some reason, we don't have our hands on that. But why is that by design? And we seem to ignore it. I stand here because my father really taught his son some things. How to take care of ourselves in bad times. I was laid off in 2006, and I said for the last time. And I've been doing pretty good since I just pulled myself up and said, you know what, hell with those other people. I had to begin to look at my people and my children, my nieces and nephews, and I said, something is wrong. We're not being taught what my father taught me. Then I asked the question, where are the fathers? They're not in the homes. It's still by design, but we don't see it. We have to begin to open up our hearts in a way. When we start talking about our heart, this is not it. This is anatomy. The heart is here. You read the Bible right. So when we open up our heart, we begin to see things in a different light. So I said, why is it that all over the country, I see all these nations of people, moving to the United States, and I see all of their history come with them. But when I go to South Dallas, the only thing I see about us is what Martin Luther King Boulevard brings us. We are so quick to want to move and live with those other people, but they don't want us to live with them. And it's so nice to let them come back and just take things gentrification-wise. I'm not going to talk a long time tonight because they say I talk too much sometimes. But I want to share some things. My father bought some property on Cedar Crest Boulevard. And it's on the corner next to the Trinity River. So already, you know, those people are already trying to do their little devilish things, right? So I already started creating my own shelf. I created a product. It's called Glow Grout. And it's in production right now to be created. It's a glow-in-the-dark grout to illuminate the floor in different types of situations, as far as corporate America, and we have theaters, old folks' homes, and stuff like that. But I have to have the light. So it's in the process, and it's kind of exciting because not knowing the process, not never being invited to the game. I also carve stone into pretty nice images for different things, backsplashes. So I create a lot of different things in concrete, staining, artwork. So I go back to my history and I say, why we keep on talking about black universities? As a second conversation, when the first university of the world was the University of Timbuktu. In a city called Timbuktu that's now called Mali. In the 1300s, a black man had so much gold, over $400 billion, it threw off the economy. And that's when the world knew Africa was rich. What happened to us after that when they said we were bush people? And all of a sudden we think that way, because we think that way because we have been dumbed down like a computer, deprogrammed and reprogrammed. But I keep going back to what my father has done for the 7 boys. Mine, I do have one daughter, my sister, and she's spoiled, so I'm kind of keep her to the side for a moment. She's still not working. It's okay though. But what I was able to, what I'm working on Cedar Crest Boulevard is telling all the African Americans that own property on Cedar Crest Boulevard to hold on to your property until you get the right thing for your property. Whether it's money or the right business idea, don't sell out too fast. I know I have a piece of property that means a lot. To begin, what happens when you come across Martin Luther King Boulevard and 11th Street, Cedar Crest, it starts with what they call Oak Cliff. So in that building, I started creating my own showroom. I do flooring, and matter of fact, anything custom to our house I can create and do. It's been very good for me because I'm a creative artist, but I never boast about it. But some things that I need to share because it's something that our children are missing. When they took vocation out of our schools, 20, 25 years ago, that's why we have fallen so far back. When I look at Lincoln, Madison, Roosevelt, South Cliff, Carter, Princeton, Roosevelt, those schools were pretty prominent back in the day. When I lived at Hampton and Oakland, we had Shell's gas station owned by the Hoffman brothers, black people. We had a black pharmacy. We had, close to Little Grove, we have the black liquor stores, which we still have, but mainly they have switched hands right now. But everywhere you go, there was black businesses. We all had something to look up to and want to be a part of to inspire us to do certain things. But today, those things are not there. We wonder how those things happen. They're all by design. But we still go patronize those people that don't like us. Because God gave us love for everybody. We patronize people that don't love us. So I want people to kind of come back and look at themselves in the mirror and just think about where we were just in the 70s. Think about 1920, 21 in Oklahoma. You know, think about the things that happened in Florida. Think about the things that happened in North Carolina. We seem to forget about everything. We put certain people on a pedestal. We forget about us. And I tell our single parent mothers, bless y'all, but in the same token, those boys that are playing those video games, if we can start forgetting about those vacos for a minute, and start creating some work for these boys, whether it's cutting your grass or whatever it is, we're going to be lost for another 200, 400 years. I promise you, we have to begin to wake up as a nation of people to begin to create the thing, not create, start a new idea of the things that we already created. I was called upon the short notice, so I'm not going to take too much time. I'm going to kind of say a couple of other things here on the leave this evening. And if any of you guys are ever in the area of Cedar Crest Boulevard, just want to stop by and see the things I'm trying to create to preserve a heritage that other people are trying to get rid of. And we think it's a game because it's not a game. We already talking about the food. The health industry is just knocking us out the box. All this beautiful melanin that I see, they do not like it. Just your melanin alone changed the recipe of this world. Just one drop. So, with that being said, I do want to say that there are some people that do care about our children. Not only our children, I said we all should be looking out for one another. Because my child is watching when you grow up, and you being a man, it's going to dictate what my child is going to be. So we got to look at everyone equally. I gave 1,000 turkeys a year ago, 2 years ago. But this year, I only gave away 100, but I delivered those turkeys personally to those people that need those turkeys. Because I was giving away 1,000 turkeys with Eugene Lockhart from the Dallas Cowboys. Everybody and their mother and BMWs and Mercedes-Benz and 10 deep picking up turkeys. So I said, if I condense it and try to get it to the right people in that community, I've done what I was supposed to do. So, you know, we all need help. And I'm here to volunteer my services to anyone trying to do things so I can learn. But I would love it if people just come by, we just driving by, just to see where we can go. Because if we don't start developing our own land, they're not going to develop it for us. With the little money that we have, if we invest in one another, it's not that hard. We just have to do it. Step out on faith. Thank you.
Hi, how are you? Good to see you.
A festive crowd here. You better make history. Okay.
That's right.
Happy to be here, brother. Brother Michael, where'd you go? Brother Michael has worked so hard to get me here. He would call me since the summer, Brother Umar, come here, and so this happened. He called me a few weeks ago, said, so brother got lynched in Dallas. Brother got lynched here? Did your brother actually get lynched in Austin Creek? That hit the news nowhere else. Nowhere. I searched. What's going on in Dallas? You got 2 black men lynched nobody knows about. Come get this stuff. Yes. I go all over the world, and I know we have all these issues going on, but I deal with human rights. That's a human rights issue. That's a human rights issue. The police department is a human rights issue. It's bigger than a cop with a gun. And I want to take the opportunity this evening to talk to you because I've worked in human rights. I was a human rights monitor trained over in Geneva, Switzerland. And it's time for us to make a change here. Is it warming up there? Okay.
Well, we didn't take the lights down? Bring the lights.
I don't think we worry about the lights. What's going on there? Here we can come. Okay. All right. Okay. Maybe a couple lights. All right. I am Umar. Who will come here, sir? Just a little dim off the screen. Whatever's up on the screen there, I can know a little bit. Also, bear with the Creator, and we're gonna do this. All right. As for the Umar, Now, I have a lot of questions people ask me, and I have a unique experience in life. I worked all over the world, but I worked lately into the wash tower. One of the main questions I get always is, what is the wash tower? We're going to call what is the wash tower, okay? Also I get the question, who are Moors, and what's the difference? Are you familiar with the word Moor? Which one are you familiar with? Both of them? Just the last one, huh? Never heard the first one, huh? Okay. Also, the question I get is, how do I get my status of nationality? How many of you wonder about that? Your status of nationality. Do you know what that means, status of nationality? You know what it means to be nationalized? What happens if the government nationalizes the company? They nationalize the oil industry, what they do? They take it over, right? Who want to be taken over in here? All right. The other question I get is, why are people so divided in country? Why do I have Moors and Moors up there? Spelled alike, huh? Kinda. It's a difference. Okay. And the last question I get is, who the freak are you? So let's go here, right? What can we do? This is more. What can we do to solve our collective problems? Who the washer is, who I am, doesn't matter, because we have something in common. We all breathe the same air, right? Drink the same water. Is good. Okay. Is that right? We all bleed the same way, sweat the same way, poop the same way. It's all the same, right? Okay. So let's go on. So first, let me tell you who am I. I am Umar. I am first and foremost a family man. I love my wife and my kids. I'm also a beekeeper. We have a business. I came to Dallas. Really, my real purpose here is to discuss economic development. The solution to our problem is to develop our own economic base. I studied Dr. Carl Anderson for years about building your economic foundation first, then you control your politics, you control the community, and that has got to happen. But first, there must be there must be a community to develop it, and the community is built around businesses. If there are business people in the audience today, let's make sure we network with each other. If there's a business person in the audience today, please get their number and go patronize them, and let them patronize you also, okay? So I'm a beekeeper. My wife and I, we have a company called Hilltop Bakery. We cultivate bees. We are honey producers, okay? We also, see our children here, they're all family business, okay? We also wholesale honey. My wife has honey outside, fresh from the bees. I go collect bee swarms. I'm a nature person, okay? And if you want to know more about me, go to the internet. I have a whole website called holder.org. You can talk about me. I do many things. I have my own museum since 1989 called the Black Inventors and Scientists Museum. I've gone all over the world with the museum. I've been to every continent except Australia with the museum. South America, there's a museum in Ghana. There's one in Louisiana, Los Angeles, all over the world. Also, most importantly, is we built our own institutions. In the Washington, what we learned was build your own institutions. Build your own systems, okay? You don't have to correct that system, make your own systems. Here's our school we have. The Enduring Moore Institute, the World University, is a school we have. It's a non-governmental organization, and we serve women and children, but we serve men also. But it's all about the women, okay? Here's my class. I love teaching. You know, I'm a flag flying there. My students are all geniuses before they're over. Nobody can fail. If they make a 50 the first time, they're gonna make a 60, a 90, till they get 100% competence. Because grading kids is a waste of time. Grading kids is not teaching kids. Okay. Brother Umar, why do you say you are indigenous? You don't look like an Indian. Right. I get that question all the time. Okay. So I get a lot of hateration. Okay. The Washington Moors are racist. What does that mean? Who are these people? Let's just destroy that myth right there. First of all, here's Washington. Can I get some focus on this? See this? Right here? How do you get a good focus on it right here? This is a copy of my visa. When I was in the Washington Nation, we had a sovereign, accepted, respected nation. When I went to Geneva, Switzerland, I demanded them give me a visa, okay? Here you can see, we talk about the nationality here. It says, tribe for the Washington Moors, spelled with 2 U's, okay? My name on there, everything. Because when we traveled to Washington, we had our own passports that were accepted, recognized, and respected, okay? This was 1996. I went to the United Nations conference in Geneva, Switzerland, and you can see one over there, passport. That's not a U.S. passport, that's a Washington passport, okay? People say, oh, you just making it up, it never happened, the Empress never existed, y'all just make that up, right? No. So where did it come from? This is my grandmother, and this is Mabel Starr, right? Am I indigenous to my grandma? Beautiful, that's my grandpa right there, okay? See grandpa here, see that little figure right there? You know what this is? This is an oak, chiefy. This comes from the art of dolmens in Central America, Mexico. So I found this picture, this little statue, said, look, this ain't my grandfather, man, what? Grandpa was an oak? That's my family there? And that's my grandmother. I gave a lecture years ago, said my grandma was a 6'3" woman classified as an Indian. People said, oh, your grandma was Indian. And grandma said she was Indian also, but grandma is in her house, and you see how tall I am. So I went to grandma's house, and I stood right next to the same cabinet she stood this picture. See where my chin is by the shelf here? Look grandma's chin is. Grandma's not much shorter than me. Look how big her arms are. See that? Grandma was, she used to pick me up in the air, talk to me, feed me, discipline me, okay? And here you are, this is the Indian roll, okay? In the Indian roll, you'll see all my family name. My family was stars, okay? Here's my grandmother, Mabel Starr, right? Here's her mother, Nancy Starr. That's my great-great-grandmother. Up here you have my Turner Starr. That's her father. So Turner Starr and Nancy Starr made Mabel Starr, my grandmother, my father's mother. That woman raised me. I was born in her house in Los Angeles, California, right? So, and that roll, I don't know what that roll is. Look at this. Here is a U.S. Census. The name of who? Nancy Starr, my grandma. Here's Turner Starr, my bigger grandfather. Where is he born? Cherokee Nation, Indian Territory. What's his birthplace? Indian Territory. What's his, what they say, he's an Indian here, right? Look at this closely. 1900, Turner Starr is from Indian Territory, and he is an Indian classified, okay? Go on to the next census. In 2010, Turner Starr, here you go again, Turner Starr, he's, now he's black. What is an Indian? What an Indian, okay? And you listen again, you have all the families. Here's Turner Starr again. I don't know if you can see that clearly, but this is the U.S. Census, okay? It's 1910. Now you have, this is where Turner Starr married Rosetta Cantine, okay? Rosetta Cantine is my grandmother. She's from Fort Smith, Arkansas, okay? Cherokee woman also. Now you go to 1920. Here you go. And we have moved from Oklahoma. This is after the Tulsa bomb. We were part of, we were in Oklahoma, they bombed Tulsa. Ran all the so-called black folks out of the state. And they're moving to Missouri, Jackson, Missouri, okay? Turner Starr once again, and here you see once again, Nancy Starr, Grandma, Rosetta Starr, Mabel Starr, Mama. Here's 3 generations. Great-grandma, great-grandma, my grandma, okay? You know, Turner Starr, that's my uncle, Turner Starr Jr., okay? Call him Uncle Boy. Here's 1930, look what happened. Turner Starr got his whole name changed, and now he's a Negro. Am I indigenous? What happened? Am I Negro? That doesn't even matter. Now, my aunt, now I got a lot of information. My grandmother is Mabel Starr. Her baby sister, Aunt Nellie, told me all my family history. She broke it down from about the reservation. We had 200,000 acres in Oklahoma and Arkansas, and they ran us off the land. She said he used to get checks all the time, right, until the 1930s. 1930s, the checks were coming. Once they got classified as Negro, the Indian checks were coming. There was Indian, black, they said the check is black Indians, okay? But if you're Negroes got no checks. Grandma, said, the checks just quit coming. My $1.25, boys, everybody got a check, they quit coming, okay? So here's Grandma, and I love her, my grandpa, and I thank them because here's my father. Do you look Indian to you? Served in the U.S. military, that's my son. So these people made 3 generations. That's my father, here's me, here's my son. Are we Native American? Are we indigenous? Are we black? Well, we got an identity crisis in this country. And that keeps us divided and conquered. Okay? We're all Moors, okay? Now my grandma led me to this woman here, Her Royal Highness the Empress of Washington. When my grandma told me, she said the same thing. My grandma said, we ain't coming from no Africa. We always been here. This is our land. We more than Indians. We more than Negroes. I thought this woman saying the same thing 40 years later. Okay, let me go find what she's talking about. Oh, her name is Turner too. So she wrote this book, Return to Ancients. Are you familiar with this book right here? World Renowned. This book is so awesome, okay? Full information. What it say? The Washita that dug them out in the empire, okay? Empress Versi Ghosted of the Black Washita Empire. The state of Louisiana was originally stolen and illegally sold as Louisiana Purchase. Okay? It's the land of the Black Washita people, the ancient ones. Okay? So what is the Washita Empire? What is that about? Well, what the Empress did was she went out and secured some land, okay? This was not the average woman, okay? Let me go back to the Empress of Washita here now. This Empress of Washita. In 1992, she went to secure some land, okay? But long before 1992, she was busy politically. In 1967, her grandmother died and left her with a mission to go out and recover the family land. And so by 1974, she had formed her own city in Louisiana. Now, mind you, in 1964, you had the Voting Rights Act, okay? So right, 10 years later, you have a Moorish woman, a black woman, not only running for office, but forming her own city and becoming the mayor of that city in 1974. Before that, she was working with Richard Nixon. You understand, Richard Nixon is the one who implemented the welfare program, the food stamps, the housing, all that kind of stuff. When we get there, you had a governor named McKinnon who implemented the same kind of social welfare programs. Who do you think wrote that kind of stuff? The Empress of Washington. People getting public assistance, she wrote the programs for that. Before she became the mayor of her own city. Politically astute woman in 1974 went on. So by 1992, she was rolling. So she was the mayor in 1974 to 78. She went out of office. At that point, she went to D.C. She became a consultant. All these senators, all these representatives had her writing law, doing research. While she was doing research for them, she had access to all kinds of records.